Welcome back. It is said that we are borrowing significantly under unfriendly terms. The debt dynamics are not in our favor because we're borrowing from a country. That same country takes the contract of the infrastructure project that we borrowed for, and then the money circulates in that country and it does not circulate in our country. We are left with a debt burden and we do not have the resultant multiplier effect that is supposed to drive the economy to pay back. This is part of our conversation today. As I had mentioned, Abraham, when we were going for the break, I'd want us to review, are the African markets really more resilient to political risks now, or are we looking at, just hype?
I think their resilience comes mainly because of their informality. And again, as you say, they are broad-based, and if you look very critically, the more sophisticated you are, the harder you're hit. If you look at even that index, and sophistication used very loosely. Agriculture-based economies seem to have survived. And I think for only one cardinal reason, that all must eat, whether we are at war, whether we are in resilience, whether we are COVID, man must eat. A man must consume agricultural products as a matter of must. So I think that, and that being the case, then this is not discretionary expenditure. This is mandatory expenditure. And I think this is our moment for us to expand, as I was saying, expand our value chain and maximize on this moment. Because we are the ones who hold the product that the whole world needs. So I think we have to turn the tables and take advantage of, especially the African, the free trade area agreement. I think we should really maximize on it, so that by the time something leaves here, there's no further value we can do to it.
Yeah.
And it has employed as many people as it has left as much of that value on this end.
Fair enough. Local manufacturing.
Yeah.
His Excellency the President narrated how his government has supported local manufacturing, and he's excited that that is picking up. Your comments?
You see, manufacturing is the supply side of it. We have a problem with the demand. There's nothing wrong with it. Supply, we can produce them all we want. But the question is, have we changed our mind about domestic consumption? Will you want to buy a Kenyan suit, or you want to buy an Italian suit?
Kenyan, as long as it's good.
Yes, that is you. But if I did a poll of 10, you probably would be the 10th one. The other 9 will have polled that they want to buy Italian. So there's a big mind shift that we have to do. That we have to say, we'll buy local. Local may not be as good as foreign in the short run. But the more we buy, they'll get better. They may not be as cheap as foreign in the short run, but they'll get cheaper as we go. So it's a pain we must agree to take in the short run, for the long-term gain.
During Moody Awori's vice presidency, he came up with the Kenyan dress.
Yes.
The whole idea was to buy Kenya, build Kenya, and perhaps end this dependency on mitumba. That never picked up. I don't know whether it's because of our preference for mitumbas or costs. Or
you see, if you don't address consumer taste, then even if you produce it, then you're not producing for a market. Because for it to be consumed, there must be a market. And for people to shift from one thing to another, they must be shown why and buy into it. Then if you change your minds, then you create the market. But you can't just put the product there and say that it is Kenyan. Because you see, they were appealing to our sovereignty and to our nationalistic feelings.
Not our fashion sense.
Yeah. But most people, that is not strong. It is strong, but does not come into their fashion.
It does not define fashion.
Yeah. So his fashions is defined differently from his nationalistic ideals.
That's a very interesting conversation to have, because yes, we tend to dress more like the West.
Yes.
And we never thought about that while defining our national dress.
You see, again, we know why we dress that way, because of those are some of the colonial things that have permeated us, and we are even better. If you look at the French, the British rule was different. It was indirect rule, so at least you saw your own leaders facing you, as much as they were behind the scene. With the French, it was assimilation. You drank tea like them, you walked like them, you ate like them, you behaved like them. That's why you see even most countries, they still their dream is to go to Paris, because that is what is in their system. So some of these things, we should never underestimate the effect. But the good thing is, we now have a generation, the Y and Z generation, who really don't care. And they don't care in the sense that for them that we were colonized by the British is history. And that's as far as it goes.
Yeah.
It does not in any way affect anything that they do. So maybe it is that generation that we need to deal with. But my generation and going upwards, we may have a challenge.
I hear you. Let's talk about borrowing and lending. And it's a conversation that we need to have, because the general feeling from the conversations I've had in this show is that there's a crowding out effect, there's a credit crunch, and we are in a debt crisis of sorts.
Right now we're short of hitting I think we've hit the 8 trillion mark, we have, and it's split right down the middle. 4 trillion foreign debt, 4 trillion domestic. Now, the foreign is a discussion again for another day, but the domestic, that 4 trillion that the government has borrowed, 70% of it has come directly from banks. The money you and I have put in as deposits has been taken there. Why are the banks doing that? Because they can, and simply because it's the simplest way to make money without having to, with minimal or little or no risk at all. But it means that 70% liquidity could have gone to SMEs if the banks had no choice. And don't forget, banks have no obligation whatsoever to grow our economy. They don't have economic targets. They only have financial ones. And it is, and I think it would be stretching imagination to imagine that they have them, because their fidelity is to their shareholder, and their shareholder is for profits. The more, the merrier. So even if you can take your entire deposits and give them to Treasury and make me a return, so be it. But now, the effect in the economy that if 70% of that deposit has been starved off the economy and given to the government, then it means that somebody is suffering somewhere. Because it is a zero-sum game, because there's only so much deposits in a bank. So they either go this way or they go this way. Now, but the good thing in this economy, we have seen that banks can be driven in a certain direction using monetary policy. And if you remember, when Muraria was Minister of Finance, they drove down the CBR to a level where banks had no interest in lending government. And that's when you saw tents all over the place, people calling you, telling you you've qualified for a loan. Because they had liabilities for which they had to create assets. And the only asset they could create was debt. So they had to push debt, whichever, otherwise they are going to go under. And that is where that is the only place. And that's why we have policy. Policy does that. It can push you to a corner that we want, because that way now you'll be meeting our economic agenda by trying to survive.
So then you are for us driving down the CBR significantly.
Yeah, CBR now, that tool basically has become important. We have kept it at 7 to a point. People forgot about it. Actually, if you look carefully, people don't bother with it anymore, because it cannot be that the economy is so dynamic and a certain rate stays the same. It cannot be. So the thing is, it is one tool that we can drive anywhere we want to go. And also remember, for banks, is lending to government a sustainable model? The answer is no.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What's driving this concern for them to maintain CBR at the same level year on, year in?
I think it's just what I'd say. It's letting sleeping dogs lie. And what will wake up CBR is the day we sort out the basket and come out with what really is a true inflationary rate.
Yeah.
Because if you read the communique they normally give, to me it almost implies that their trigger will be the inflationary rate. Because they say the inflation rate is okay, so this one is okay, macro is okay, and therefore we let sleeping dogs lie. But we must now go beyond reacting to the macroeconomic fundamentals to causing them.
making the CBR
Yes.
a causal
Yes,
effect,
so that
as
you
opposed
push
to an
it.
effect.
Yes, so that now it starts a domino effect.
Yeah.
And letting those chips fall where we want them to fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I hear you. Will then, there is this feeling,
Yeah.
before we go into 2022, there's this feeling that our debt might go to unsustainable levels anytime soon, considering the fact that we are already at 8 trillion, as you put it. And this makes investment a jittery affair. I don't know what your thoughts are about
You
this.
see, at 8 trillion, put simply, for every 100 shillings KRA is collecting, 69, 68 bob is going to debt service. I'm just restricting myself to what KRA is collecting. So only 32 bob is left to pay salaries and to do everything else. So it means already the money that KRA is collecting is not even enough to just service debt and pay salaries. Leave alone, if any, because those are the two things that you cannot run away from. And that's why you see we have a 3T budget, but we're only collecting 1.6, 1.7. So 1.3 is borrowed by design. So so the only way to stop this bleeding is to start balancing our budget very soon. Otherwise we'll dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And this 68 will move to 70, it will move to 73. Before long it will be 100.
Assuming you are talking to Raila or Ruto,
Yes.
whoever takes over power next year, I don't want to sound that I'm biased.
Yes.
What would your advice be to just stabilize the macros in this economy and take us back to a growth path and not cooked figures?
You see, number one, we have to reduce, we have to balance our budget. And that, now that you've brought the politics of it, let me put it this way. As we are saying the things we are going to give out, let us also say where they are going to come from. Because that part is always missing. And that part is we all know where it's going to be. It's going to be more taxes. There's no other way.
It is intentionally missing, my brother.
Yes, intentionally. But you see, let's not live in a fool's paradise. Let us live in a real world that for every goodie, because first of all, we are where we are. We are at 80. We are at 68 shillings per 100 bob of KRA that we are paying out. We must pay. But also the other thing we can do, these debts are not stuck in stone. We can call all our lenders in a room and tell them, as we can only afford 20 bob per 100 bob. So, and the way we see it, we will give you this, we'll structure this. After all, Kenya is not a mortal body. Kenya will be here 1,000 years from today. We are all long gone. So we can push, so we can push our time horizon, get moratoriums. Like now, we need to get a moratorium like over 5 years and breathe, because what we need is cash. Kenya can pay, but the question is, maybe we lumped them too much that we never sat and looked at them globally. I think the time has come for us to look at them globally and see, and there's some that we can mop up and get better terms.
Yeah.
Because today, I believe, if we went to the market and said, we have 80 on the market, we want a better deal, we will get it. We will get it.
Let me ask, we have a few minutes.
Yes.
So just to point us, your expectations for 2022, an election year, in terms of the macros, the GDP growth, the inflation, the interest rate, of currency?
Personally, I think two positions. One, from an internal position, I think the market will be resilient and stable from an internal perspective. Why? Because Kenyans know exactly what happens in an election year. So for them, there's no unknown. They know that there'll be an election, we'll push and pull, there'll be a president, he'll be sworn in, and life will go on. Externally, there are things that are going on. There's the COVID and its variants, and the price of petroleum and price of other inputs that impact us. The effect of imported inflation, the effect of what this disease will do to us, is what is unknown. And to me, it is more unknown than what the election will do to us. Because the election will not do to us anything different that it has done to us all these years. The only thing that it does is that the people who are not from Kenya don't understand what we do here. But this is how we do it. Yeah, this is just how Kenyans do it, and we'll continue doing it until the day we decide to do it differently. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I like the fact that you have very high hopes in terms of the year 2022 and look forward to a resilient year in spite of the political upheavals that there will be. Of course, my own expectations are that we will have a peaceful election.
Yes, we will.
And, you know, a smooth transition.
Yes, they will be.
So that we do not find ourselves in a position where the economy is destabilized by some political upheavals. A peaceful election would definitely mean smooth transition, and that can mean then that we remain resilient.
Yes.
The stock market and the general economy.
True.
Thank you. I hope to have you in the show any other time.
Anytime.
Well, that has been quite a conversation. We talked about the GDP growth, and Abraham is of the thought that 2021 was a mixed year. On one hand, we are hearing on some very high growth figures, up to 10% growth in quarter two. But at the same time, things are different on the ground, and people are complaining that there is not growth that is being felt. And the general feeling on this is that we have a misplaced debt priority or misplaced debt power dynamics. The second learning for me in this show has been the inflation basket needs to be revised, because we have an inflation basket that reflects a smaller economy than our economy actually is. That needs to be revised so that then we find ourselves at a better position. I've been your host, William Odhiambo Ramogi, and this is Markets Today. Thank you for joining us. I wish you happy holidays, happy new year, and may God bless you.